Awesome. Well, hello, everybody. So excited that you're joining us for the first brainstorm of this new school year. My name is Lindsay Cuiava. I'm the Artistic Director of Re Theater. We are an online theater education and consulting company. Our whole goal is to help educators and inspire educators to use theater as a tool for community engagement and community healing, which is what we need a lot of right now. We host monthly brainstorms for educators to connect with each other, but also for us to problem solve and kind of navigate through all of the craziness that this school year is going to be. I'm just going to throw it over to our amazing collaborators for this month. Today we're joined by Rob Klimonski. Did I say it right? Okay, great. And Carolyn Little. They have spent a lot of time putting together a lot of information regarding outdoor performance and just different types of ways that we can be producing work right now. So I'm very excited to have you both here. And one last note, how this kind of will work. So we'll have about like 20 to 30 minutes of just like content and like folks like giving information. And then we will either split out into breakout rooms to have more of a conversation, or we will all stay together and brainstorm. So have questions, all of those things. Otherwise, I will ask questions and it'll be fine too. So great. So thank you all for joining us, and thank you, Carolyn and Rob, for being here. And I'll pass it to you all.
All right. Hi. How's everyone doing? Guess you want me to share my screen to get the stuff started?
Yeah. Would you two want to? You guys introduce yourselves in the slides, yeah?
Yeah.
I'm gonna stop talking now.
I'm doing horrible at this.
You're doing great.
Oh, yeah. There we go. Hi, guys. I'm Rob Klimonski. I am Performing Arts Center Manager and Technical Director at Burlington County Institute of Technology in Medford, New Jersey. I am also part of the New Jersey Thespian Society. I was recently on the New Jersey task force for September Ready to get education, make sure it's prominent back in our schools. I co-wrote this with Carolyn, and pretty much from my background, I am a technical person. So I have more of the technical side of this form, where Carolyn will have the other from the education side. But just to give you a little bit more about me, I run my own production company, and I have worked all over the tri-state area for about over 15 years now. So next, go to Carolyn.
Hi, everyone. I'm Carolyn Little. I am the New Jersey chapter director for New Jersey Thespians. Sorry, I don't want to read from this slide. So I teach at Toms River High School North. I'm going into my 18th year teaching there. I have spent 18 years running the after-school theater program. So I direct the musical, the fall and the spring plays, and I run thespians there as well. I actually spent the last year during COVID trying frantically to get my master's degree in theater, which I did. And now I am also teaching theater at High School North, which is super exciting and very overwhelming because I've never taught before and I have 4 classes and it's a little bit crazy, but exciting. As Rob said, I did serve on the New Jersey task force for September Ready, and it was a great task force. We all met, we served on the theater portion of it. And then Rob and I also worked on this document together. And like he said, he did a lot of the technical side. He is like our technical guru. He's amazing. He understands everything having to do with tech for outdoor shows. I was kind of the more directing approach. How can we envision this to go this way? And then I tried to address people's questions when they had them within the document. So you'll see some people had asked about like fundraising, for example, and I tried to put some things in there for them. So as people would read our documents and come back with questions, we would try to address them more in the document. But that's me.
Guess, Lindsay, you want us to continue on?
Yeah, go for it. I'm going to throw that document that they just referenced over into the chat. But yeah, let's keep going.
Okay. slide will work. So in this document, we help guide you on your way to producing a successful outdoor show. Please take this with a grain of salt, as I like to say, because this is all research-based. We compiled it from either events that have already happened or ideas that are out there. This is also based from the New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Delaware, New York area, so it might differ from wherever part of the region you might be from in the country. But in this document, I have researched from around the country, but not just this country, but around the world as well. We found a couple of good examples of people that have done stuff. So, question is, where am, I didn't do that. That's right. Where am I going to do this show? And you need to figure out where your playing area is or your venue space. Questions you should have when that comes to that is it shaded? Is it protected by the from the elements? Is the area too noisy, or you buy like a highway or something like that? Construction. How will backstage work? Is there power? Can you use power for stuff? Dressing rooms. Audience or no audience? Where are they going to sit? Is there enough room to fit all of them, keeping social distance? Parking. Restrooms is a big one because, you know, everyone has to go. Can I abide by social distance regulations? So earlier we said we were part of the New Jersey September Ready forum to get guidance for arts education. This was through Arts Ed Now and Arts Ed New Jersey. And we were part of this task force, and when compiling this, I started referencing from all these groups that I have dealt with or I'm part of in some way on either social media or email system. So we used guidelines based from the CDC, USITT. The big one is event safety guidelines from the Event Safety Alliance. And but one of the biggest ones we used was the NFHS, which ended up talking about aerosols. And they came out with the Colorado study, and the Maryland, University of Colorado and University of Maryland came out with the study to talk about aerosols, which then they came to the conclusion that outdoor was a better option than being indoors. Airflow was a lot more able to happen. So with the list you're looking at right now, you can see the decrease in risk is being outside is a lot better than being inside. And that's with everything from talking, singing, and so on. As we like to say, you keep your signs, you want to promote that social distance and whatnot, but we have in our document tons of paperwork you can actually print out and put in your and get ideas for things to do. All right, I guess
Rob,
now,
can I talk
yeah,
really
you can
fast
talk.
about
You can
that?
talk.
Okay, cool. So if I just posted the link to the document that Rob's referring to, if you live in New Jersey, hopefully you saw it already. And if you don't live in New Jersey, a lot of people have found it as a very helpful document. Like we said, every state is different, every school is different, every district is different, everybody's different. Even Rob and I, who are very good friends, are in 2 different districts, and what Rob's district allows and what my district allows are 2 different things. But in the September Ready document, if it helps you at all, we do have a ton of links in there. There's a bunch of reopening guides, and we kind of go through safety procedures, and if you're going to be doing things in school, what you would have to do in a tech booth and the box office and in your auditorium. We have a whole page on remote learning with tons of different links in there about remote learning and programs you could use to help you be better in the classroom. Then we have another section on co-curricular theater arts experiences where we talk about getting licenses and how to streamline rehearsals and what online streaming is like, and what kind of technology might help you to be performing in this day and age. Then we have another section on professional development with probably over 50 different links on there to all different kinds of professional development and articles and podcasts and all kinds of stuff. So the document is pretty awesome. But what happened when Rob and I served on that committee is I said, Rob, I really want to do an outdoor show, but we don't really cover that because this is about going back to school and being in a school building. I kind of feel like I want to do an outdoor show document. So I threw something together, which wasn't very long, and sent it to Rob, who then proceeded to like add 5,000 things into the document. And then it turned into this amazing document. And then it turned into let's share it and let's get a Facebook group and let's do webinars on it. And now it's turned into a very big, large, amazing document. But even when the document was very small and minimal, my district approved an outdoor show with that. And now it's like 50 times better than it was. So that's kind of where we got the idea from to start this journey of doing an outdoor show document. I knew my school wasn't going to let me do anything inside. And I thought I would love for us to try to come up with a way to do it outside and just kind of a guide to help others be able to do it outside. So that's just to give you some background on that. Go ahead, Rob.
Actually, if you open up the document, everything I just went over with all those companies, they all them release their own set of guidelines. Everything from the Safety Alliance, the CDC, Actors Equity, film, all of them release their own sets of guidelines. They are all listed for open links on the first, I think the third page of the document. And from there is pretty much where we based everything off of. So now we're going to show you and talk to you about some examples of productions that have happened and or happening now. As you see on your screen, this is currently Montclair State University here in New Jersey. They are practicing with their chorus and band inside a parking garage that's connected to the university. They are keeping their social distance, wearing masks when they sing, and wearing masks also when they play instruments. We will get, I guess we could talk about the masks too. There are masks that are being developed, if you didn't know, that are able for singing and playing instruments. It's recommended you could actually on your own, make your own instrument mask by just getting a secondary mask, putting a slit in your lip area so you can play, say, your saxophone or any of the wind instruments are probably better. Maybe trumpet you could play too, but if it's a bigger mouthpiece, you might need a bigger nozzle, if you want, so face mask. But there's videos of this. We posted about 3/4 of the way down on our document. I have nothing but links for videos that are all over. And this was on the Today Show. They covered this at Montclair. And a few other organizations covered this on the news. So there's actually video of this example. Next example for theater. Surflight Theater, located in Beach Haven, New Jersey, is right there on the beach. Beautiful area, and they are a summer stock. They are based strictly on the summer to make the revenue. Well, so they had to move outside. They got permission from their county, the government, the governor actually also, and they put their performance on, created social distance seating. We actually, again, in the links, the artistic director, there's a video of him walking you through the entire venue, showing you how he did the seating and the lighting and everything. But if you look up in the right-hand corner, you can actually see it got destroyed from the hurricane, and I will talk about that later in a segment, but they ended up rebuilding it and putting on their production safely again about a week and a half later. Other examples, we have in the top corner, another school, they did Midsummer Night's Dream, and they did it outside, used a tent, so the audience sat underneath the tent, and they opened up the sides so the backdrop was the woods. So the entire set was the woods. And all they did was use Christmas lights and a few other things. They did it at night and used two cars to aim into the woods so they could see people acting in the ferns. Over on the other side, we have other examples of people that just moved outside of their actual theater and built a little stage, took some lights right from their unit, and they told everyone to bring their own lawn chair, sit equidistance of household or 6 feet apart, depending on how many people were in your party, because that's a way that you can seat people is by the household or individual. Other parts this was a children's theater show down in the left corner. They're up in up in Massachusetts, and they ended up having a summer camp. They did Beauty and the Beast, and they filmed it and they streamed it live. But they still were able, and all the kids were masked. In the middle, this one's really cool. This was just outside of Philadelphia. They did Tarzan the musical in an actual zoo outside. And it was really cool. So they did it with the backdrop. You could hear the animals constantly, and all the actors except for the three main characters were masked. And they got special permission and whatnot for that. Another one is Godspell that was done up in, I believe, Connecticut, I think, or it might be New York. But they put on their own production, open tent. And that's the other thing. Tents should not have sides. You need the airflow to constantly go through. This was a place in the UK that did a dance show. They used a gazebo, and the entire production was done on the gazebo, and they set up lighting rig. And as you can see in the bottom left-hand corner, they made their own tech booth far away from the rest of the action, and they programmed lights and put on a beautiful show. Other dance shows, I've done a couple of these that are in this picture, but some dance recitals were canceled this year. So the next best thing is once they got permission, they moved outside. So we made up little stage decking, put either a nice little black backdrop or a tent to cover, because the one we were anticipating it was going to be maybe a rainy weekend. So they put a tent over the stage. The other ones were only a single day. So they did a stage and called it done, put down some Marley. All the audience sat down on grass and spread out, or they sat in seats, which were then sprayed down, which I recommend you get a fogger. If you don't know what that is, it's in our document. It sprays a cleaning material. It takes about 10 minutes to dry, but after each section of adults left, they sprayed down the seats, and for the next performance, they were ready to go clean. They didn't have to individually wipe down each chair. This is an example of in England on the left side, they did a concert, and they made 6x6 boxes with barricade gates. And then the further you got back, they actually put them on risers, so they were higher. I know this is more expensive. This is more for the professional things, but it's still pretty neat ideas. On the right side is Brad Paisley's concert that he did back in June in St. Louis. The way they did it was they had the cars parked, and they took a total of 3 spaces. So it was the car would park on the passenger side. You could get out and sit, and next to that was a dead space. No one could park in, which you could see with the red squares. And then the actual pictures below is the actual concert. This was the design up here. I think maybe there's one more. Yeah, and other concerts that have happened. There was comedy shows. Lower left-hand corner was just a basic concert for kids. It was like a little school of rock, and they put on their own production, and they wore masks. They played their instruments, and they used basic 10x10 tents to cover just in case of inclement weather. And all the other ones are, again, the actual concerts, but it gives you the idea of it's doable. Carolyn?
So I know some of you might be thinking like, oh, that's all well and good, but these are big companies that have lots of money. But this is my version of Shrek. So we were supposed to perform Shrek in March of last year. We were 5 days away from performing and they shut us down. We were actually in rehearsal on Friday, and then on Saturday they called everyone and said, you're not going back to school. So like we didn't even have prep time. Everything was just left out and it was chaotic and crazy. We had to come in to take all the lights down. It was so super sad. But then we spent months trying to figure out how can we give the kids a show. We have to be able to do this. Now, luckily, Shrek is able to be streamed through MTI, and we were so lucky because so many of my friends did not have that option. We were like blessed that we actually did pick Shrek. So basically we decided, all right, we're gonna film this virtually. So we, like I said, Rob and I sat down, we wrote this outdoor show plan. I pitched it to my principals, hoping that they would let us do an outdoor show. So basically what happened was, first we pitched it. They said yes, as long as it's outside and the kids are 6 feet apart, you cannot be in the building. We were like, great. So then we pitched it to the kids. Of course, they're all on board because that's how kids are. Everybody's on board, right? But then we get to the week and like no one's on board. So we sent out Google Forms. We tried to figure out kids' schedules. Everybody had issues. This one's working. This one's babysitting. This person's just lazy, isn't getting back to us on the form. Like, we ended up nixing the idea of doing a full outdoor show. So our original plan was to do it on the track, roll out whatever pieces we could, have the kids in costume and film it, film the whole show on the track, spread them out. That was our idea. So we nixed that idea because we couldn't get any of the kids together. It was chaos. So we decided, you know what? Here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna give out the costumes. So we had the kids come in, we set up a table outside. Everybody had to wear masks. You signed a receipt with every single piece you were taking. You took the costume home. So we got rid of all the costumes. Then we created a Google Drive. It was a shared drive. I set up every single song in a folder. And what the kids did was they filmed themselves. So 3/4 of the cast, they were at home filming themselves and uploading their own videos to this shared drive that we all had. Then we brought some kids in to film. So if you're looking at the slide in the left-hand corner, Humpty Dumpty, so that's her at home. Like, she sang her part at home and filmed it herself and turned it in. But then you see some pictures from the in-person filming. So we were able to take some of our leads and bring them into film. So you see Shrek, Fiona, and Donkey. That's our school in the background. And you know what? Nobody cared. It was fine. We moved them 6 feet apart. We played music via our phones, or at one point, my assistant director pulled her car up and like hit play and the kids sang along. And it was fine. I had a camera, which you could see in the document. There's a terrible picture of me with a camera. But we had a regular camera that we just had for our theater company. And we just filmed. We dragged some set pieces outside, but not a lot. If you know Shrek at all, a lot of it takes place in the woods, and we just filmed by trees. That's how we got through things. The only hiccup we had was the tap dance number, because the kids, one, can't tap dance at home. And what are we tap dancing on outside? It's just cement and dirt. So I asked, can we bring the kids into the building? So if you look at the top right-hand corner, we actually had masks made for them with the rat faces on the mask. And we were able to film that one number. So we rehearsed outside with no tap shoes, 6 feet apart. And then we only went into film and they wore masks and we made sure they were 6 feet apart and we filmed on our stage. We did the same thing with the dragon. If you're familiar with Shrek, you can either do a puppet or a person. We had both. We had the person singing for the puppet. We filmed the puppet inside. 3 adults did it. Our choreographer, me, and my assistant. We wore masks. We moved the dragon. It was all kinds of crazy. We filmed the singer outside, and then our editor kind of melded them together so you could see the puppet, but like you can still see Rebecca singing it. So that was another decision that we made. We did a program on Playbuilder, which if you don't use that site, it's amazing, and we're able to do our entire program on it. We've used Playbuilder for years, but for virtual, it worked even better. And what did we have to do to bring the kids in? So our district made them sign a filming permission form. We had to have them sign a COVID history form once. they had to fill out a COVID form the week before, and then they had to do a daily COVID form, and then we had to take their temperature. We were able to get the kids to come in because our district is allowing sports. They still are, like, sports are practicing right now as we speak. And because of that, we said, how can you let sports come in and get their temperatures checked and let them fill out these forms and not us? So we were actually able to get that passed, and our band came in this summer. Like, they had a band camp because the sports teams were coming in, and that's the pitch that we made, that it wasn't fair. Because Shrek has such heavy costumes, we only filmed 2 times a day, 7 a.m. to 9 a.m., which, yes, was very early, but it was a lot cooler then, and then 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. So we would talk to the leads, we figured out what worked for them, and then we would bring everybody in. They were 6 feet apart outside. When they were not performing, even though they were outside, they still had to have masks on. There was no changing area. They had to be ready to go, like makeup, hair, costume, get out of your car. Some kids, like Lord Farquaad, had like a tank top and shorts on and just changed in the parking lot, which was fine. You know, it's hard for him to like drive with that outfit on. So we didn't have to worry about bathrooms or dressing rooms or an audience or any of that. We just staged it where we could around our school so that it would work for us for filming. And then we hired an editor who took all the pieces from the drive and put it together into a show. It was a lot, like for the kids, it was a lot for them because they had to film a lot at home and then turn it in. And then we collected the costumes again. So the kids had to return the costumes the way they found them. Surprisingly, 45 kids took out costumes. 45 kids brought back costumes. We had no problems at all. And I will say we have issues all the time. It's not like we're this perfect school that doesn't have problems. We do. But I think the kids were so excited to be able to have the opportunity that, you know, they were just really, really good with everything. And I would say, like, just from a director's perspective, if you're looking at shows for this year, so I normally announce my musical in June. I have not announced my musical. It is now September 24th. I haven't even read anything. I'm waiting to see what my school is going to allow, but also I am only going to read things that can be streamed. If we can perform inside, great. If we can perform outside, great. If we can only do virtual, great. But I think when you're reading things this year, my advice is just to make sure you're reading things that can be streamed, because if it can't be streamed, then you're stuck. But if it can be streamed, then great. If you end up having it with an audience, amazing. But if you can't, at least you could still do it. That's all I got, Rob. Back to you.
Yeah, to go along with that, a lot of people are doing the drive-in style, and well, we're on this slide right now. Weather is your biggest concern when it comes to outdoor shows. And like I said earlier, Surflight Theater, for example, their entire tent was destroyed by the hurricane that came through. But again, they were able to fix it, and they were able to put back on the show. But now that we are getting into the fall, winter season, it's going to start getting cold. So you're going to have to start taking that into account when you're deciding to either go outside. That one I said earlier that we did on the backdrop of the woods for Midsummer Night's Dream, we actually had stand-up heaters inside the tent for the audience because we did it in late November. And we got permission from our fire marshal, and everything was allowed, and the audience was actually pretty comfortable inside the tent. That's it for that. But like said before, all our everything in the document is there's tons of stuff in there. Like, there's too much to talk about right now. Take a look at the document. It has every need around different needs that you might want depending on your budget. There's actually sections that devote on here's the chain of command that you should probably go through before you say, I'm going to do a show. There's another section that's like, all right, what are possibly my tech needs for this show? Yeah, I want to do the show, but, oh, I didn't think of that. I didn't think of that. This document we created just so it could actually help you get started. And the way I like to say is we gave you the canvas, it's up to you to paint the picture. So, Lindsay. Hello.
Hello. Awesome. Okay, that was like so fantastic. Thank you. Okay, so we have 6 people. So, what we're going to do is based on that information. Oh, thanks, Carolyn, for sharing that. Does anybody have any questions? Because as a group that we want to talk about or that you have for Rob or Carolyn, and then we're going to break you out into 2 different breakout rooms so that you can talk with each other about kind of what you're planning to do, and then we'll come back again. But just up front, is there anything that anybody has questions about? I think it also would be really wonderful if we could all just kind of go and like share what you're looking at doing for the school year. Like, are you looking to do an outdoor performance? Are you doing virtual? I would just also love to hear like what about this brainstorm was interesting, like why you wanted to come here, because this is all about you guys, not for us. So does anybody want to start? I see, yeah, Tina?
Hi, my name is Tina Thronson, and I work with a community theater group called the Providence Players of Fairfax. We're in Virginia. We've been doing some things virtually. We've done a number of virtual one-acts, and they've gone pretty well with our audience. We have a good audience base. We're currently planning on putting on a Lone Star and Laundry and Bourbon, 2 one-act plays that take place in an alley behind a bar. And so we have a restaurateur who is giving us the parking lot behind his restaurant. And so we are going to be mounting that production in the next couple of weeks. Everything that you've talked about, and thank you very much for this presentation, our team is pretty much on top of it in terms of the social distancing and the plans. My concern as a person who's also a nurse as well as a community theater actor and director is the bathrooms. And I'm just wondering if you have any additional insight. We have the bathrooms in the restaurant that are small, and how have you solved the bathroom problem, considering that I can't think of the term, but essentially that the air has got to be, it's safest when you're out of doors and in the open, but unfortunately a porta potty or something like that would be a very enclosed, high-touch place. Any thoughts?
Well, actually, what you were saying, yeah, it's a closed-touch space, but have you ever considered actually having a staff member be next to the porta potties, and it's their job after somebody's done to spray them down with a Lysol? Or
no, we haven't. This is I think the one thing that's sort of still the team working on the show is actually expecting that folks will just go in and use the very small bathrooms in the restaurant. But I was wondering if there was an alternative. So that certainly spray it down.
Yeah, because ones I've seen done, like especially these concerts that have been done over the summer, they would rent about, like, I mean, because they're bigger venues, they can get about 20 units, but then actually porta potties are not that expensive too. That for one weekend for just 2 porta potties is probably going to cost you about $120. So it's not that really expensive, but the thing is, I recommend when you get more, it's easier to clean because then you stop one from being used. After it's used, you spray it down, let it sit for a couple minutes. And that's why it's also good to, in this document, we talk about try and not have an intermission if you possibly can. If you have to, try and, I know, and try and spread out because we all know in theater, the intermission bathroom situation that everyone has.
Exactly.
A 15-minute turns into 25. So,
what do you, what kind of, just some kind of general sanitizer or?
Yeah,
I
and
mean, this isn't
actually,
very sexy.
again,
I know this isn't very artistic, but
yeah, as I said earlier, there's a fogger. You can get that.
oh, the
It's
fogger.
it's a Ryobi fogger. It costs
Mhm.
about $120, but I have one. It is a godsend. I spray down everything with it. When we did our graduation earlier this year for our students, we did a 7-session graduation. Everybody sitting down after they were done, I would spray down. It would dry in 5 minutes because you're outside. If you're inside, it takes 10 minutes to dry. But because you're in the elements, it actually dries quicker. So if you fume out, say you use a porta potty, you spray it real quick with the fogger, keep the door open so air gets in there and cleans it faster.
Sure.
You might, yeah, Carolyn just posted it in the link.
Fantastic. It's a great idea, actually. I thank you. Thank you very, very much. Appreciate it.
That was a really great question. Thank you, Tina.
Yeah, you hate to be in a crappy situation, right?
Yeah.
Oh.
Sarah or Katie or Emily, do you have any questions, or what are you doing for your performances?
Well, we're in Texas right now, and I'm coming to you from my sewing room because our whole high school started about a month ago, and now we are under quarantine, all of us. Yeah, Texas, what can I say? But we have a little bit of good weather, so we're planning on doing Almost Maine in hopefully outside in late November. The weather might be okay for that, so we're looking at that. And then I just got permission to do they don't call it junior, it's the Rodgers and Hammerstein Cinderella with the, I don't know what it's called, but it's like the junior version of it, whatever that's called. And they did give us permission to film it. We're in a really good district. They're gonna pay for us to have a production company come in with 4 cameras and like film over several days. And then we're gonna show it at the local drive-in movie theater. So
Nice.
that's
Very
2 things that we're going to do. Hopefully, unless we all end up at home forever. So I don't know. But
yeah, the drive-in movies are a big thing. A lot of people are doing. Actually, I'm helping out with a local high school in November. They're doing You're a Good Man, Charlie Brown. They're going to film them individually outside, but then we are going to show it one night as a movie drive-in in the back, and I'm going to rent them a giant 30-foot inflatable projection screen, and all the cars will sit there. I have a radio transmitter, which is also in the document. Easy things you can get but you're going to be at a drive-in theater, so they already have all that stuff. So
yeah, in theory, yeah. We'll see.
Yeah.
We're really lucky because we have well, we're already back in school, but now we're back home again. So that's my biggest worry is, are we going to be in the middle of a show and all of a sudden it's just pulled out from under us, and then we have to figure out a way to film like Carolyn did for Shrek. So that's what I'm dealing with.
Yeah, it's a wondering world we're in right now. So we do what we can to keep it alive.
Do you have a backup plan, Katie? Or are you just optimistic?
Well, I'm optimistic, but I do have a backup plan that we will, like for Almost Maine, since it's since it's little scenes, if we end up having to film it, then I'm hoping our district will let us film it in a way, bring the kids in, film the 2 kids, have them go out one door, disinfect, have 2 more kids come in. So that's my backup plan if we don't get to do it on stage as a full production. So, yeah. And I did, the companies both, I think it's dramatists, but don't get me to lying. I think it's dramatists that they were really good about telling us, yeah, you can either film it or you can do it live. Here's the license. Either way, here, pay us. And so I did. And it only took about 2 weeks for the people that own the rights to the Cinderella, I think it's called Getting to Know Me Cinderella. Even though we're a high school, we opted to do a shorter version of it just for safety reasons. It only took them about 2 weeks to come back and say, yeah, you can film it. So yeah, really, I think they must be pretty desperate. So they're being really nice about their rights right now.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that, Katie. It's always, I think, really helpful to hear people's backup plans, because I think we're all like having to do that and have like 12 different plans. Sarah, what are you thinking about doing for the school year or this fall?
Well, I am remote right now, and we're going to stay that way through at least the middle of January. So we're working on a radio play right now, because I just want to, we're all just going to stay safe at home for now. I'm not sure about the spring. That's all kind of to be determined. But I feel like outdoor is probably the way to go if we can find a venue that works. My biggest concern is probably sound with my students, and just they're very quiet. And so I didn't know if you guys had advice for how to amplify their voices well outside, because I don't know if we'll be able to have access to all of our usual kind of sound equipment.
Well, I know depending on where you pick, if you can find somewhere that actually has something behind you, kind of like a brick wall, or that will help amplify the sound. If you have anything soft behind you, it will kill the sound. So you need something with a hard structure behind you. Another thing would be Carolyn actually showed me this over the summer. There is a thing you can get on Amazon for pretty cheap. What are they, like $30, Carolyn, or something like that? But they're a microphone, portable microphone with a pack that goes on your belt. And a teacher used it in a thing showing her behind the mask, and she was doing it so you can hear her. But they're pretty cheap, and if that's something you want to consider, but then again, that's $30 per kid, whoever's doing a production or whatever. But another way is, if you don't want to lug around your sound, but you do have a chance, you can do surrounding mics too, area mics. So not each person is individually mic'd. You just have 4 booms set up, and they'll pick up everything. As long as your kids project, I mean, you should be able to get a pretty decent sound out of it.
Okay, great. Thank you so much.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to drive me crazy. I'm going to find it.
I believe it's in our document, though.
I
So
know.
you can find it. The Amazon thing is in there with the microphone. It's Carolyn found it. So
On TikTok, because if you haven't downloaded TikTok yet, you should.
Love that. Emily, what are you doing?
I'm in Indiana, and we are 100% face-to-face. So we switched. We usually do a musical. We switched to a play. And then our director insisted on doing in-person, since sports were in-person. So now we're doing an in-person show of Clue. And there's hopes that we'll have an audience. Hopes from other people, not me, like a live audience. And then we'll also be streaming. So I guess I'm just gathering all the information in case we need to go and do it outside for some reason, or change up the plan. Our show is supposed to be the end of November. So that's where I'm at.
That's great. Do you have a backup plan, or are you kind of like devising that right now?
Devising it right now.
That makes sense.
What we're doing. Yeah.
Great. I have a couple of questions that came in ahead of time. So this one says, the person wrote in, Mary said, I have an outdoor rehearsal from 5 to 6:30. We had never canceled our production of Shakespeare in Love last spring. It was fully blocked, ready to go. We have thrown the blocking out and are performing it as a stage reading. Have you seen any clear masks that work? My district won't allow face shields. Masks made made for our deaf and hard of hearing interpreters, masks made for deaf and hard of hearing interpreters would work if the fabric were flesh colored or several varieties of skin tone. So I guess, yeah, would you have clear masks that work? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, there is actually one that was developed. I think it's still being processed by the CDC to see if it's compliant enough right now, but it is full plastic, almost with the same stuff the shield is, and all you have is foam down here, foam up here, and it's all clear plastic, but it's a wider lens, and it's actually meant that, like the microphone I was talking about earlier, you can actually get it underneath and talk. The person, I have a picture. I think I put it in the document. I'm not sure. I know I have the picture though. If not, I definitely will put it in the document if I didn't. But there is a clear one that's being developed, just like the singing mask that I know Broadway just developed, and they're selling it for like $35 or something like that. But there's all these different type of masks, but a lot of them are not quote unquote approved yet. But a lot of people are still wearing them because, you know, no one knows nowadays.
That's
Yeah.
awesome.
Rob's right. I feel like a lot of people keep using them, but they're not necessarily approved. Well, I hate, guys, I totally hate how much I'm going to reference TikTok, but I find it very helpful to me. But I did see on TikTok, some people bought like the regular masks that have the clear thing, right? But everybody says they fog, so like they're pointless. But somebody had talked about this thing called nerd wax. It's actually glasses wax, but if you put it along the mask and you put it on the like clear part, apparently it doesn't fog up. I don't own one. I don't know if it actually works, but apparently if you buy nerd wax or something maybe similar to it and you put it on the inside, apparently it doesn't fog.
Or you can go to your local hockey vendor and get stuff that the hockey vendor or hockey players use on their masks because they don't fog up. Sports reference, if you didn't know, if you saw the first week Andy Reid of the Kansas City Chiefs, his mask that he was wearing fogged up through the whole thing, and he's holding his play card up to his face because he couldn't see it. Then they told him, yeah, you should use what the hockey players do on theirs. And it's a special chemical, but it comes in. I think you could buy it at Dick's Sporting Goods and stuff like that. So, but that's a clear remedy that you can clean it. Or you could be like a diver and just spit and rub it. But then that doesn't always work. But
Awesome. Thank you for that. Does anybody else have any questions or any thoughts that you want to bounce off of either Rob and Carolyn or each other? Because we're all kind of in this weird space as educators trying to figure things out. Awesome. Okay, Rob and Carolyn, is there any last words or anything else you guys want to add? We'll wrap up. We don't want to take anybody's time if we don't have to.
I'll close with this. I think that you're welcome, Katie. I think that everything's ever changing, and I think the best thing we can do is have a positive attitude. Like, it seems like my school district was so amazing, right? They approved this outdoor show. We got to do Shrek. It was so great. Well, like 2 days ago, they came to us and they're like, you can't do anything this fall. Yeah, we know sports are practicing, but like you can't do anything. You can't bring the kids outdoors for anything. And I'm like, are you kidding me? Because a few months ago, you said it was okay if I did Shrek outside, and now we can't come in with like a cabaret type thing outside on our property. No. And now our kids are really upset because they're only going to let us do something virtual for the fall. And like, that stinks because currently right now, like football and field hockey and everybody else is out there practicing. So I would just say, like, have a positive attitude. I mean, I know my kids are upset now, but I'm like, it's going to be fine. Like, everything's great. But I do think things can change. One day your principal says yes, and the next day your principal says no. And that kind of sucks, especially when other people are able to do things and maybe you're not. But I do think that you just have to be creative and you just have to think outside of the box. And hopefully our document helps you to do that. Hopefully it helps you to do that. I think there are many easy ways to do things that some people, Like sometimes I see online these awesome things these people are doing and I'm like, oh my God, I can't even wrap my head around how to do that. But sometimes it's really not that difficult. In the spring of last year, we actually did, I don't know if you've seen this, it's been everywhere, but we did 10 ways to survive life in a quarantine. And at first I couldn't wrap my head around how to do it. And then I'm like, you know what? We're just going to do it. And the kids are going to film themselves and send in a video. And we're just going to drag and drop it into one big video. And it was not as hard as I thought it was going to be. And did people do it differently? Sure. At Rob's school, they did it online, live. Like I was like, I can't do it live. There's just no way. So there's always ways to do things differently. There's always ways to take one thing and change it to make it work for you. It's just a matter of thinking outside of the box. Rob?
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Like, that's what this is, forever changing, and that's why we came up with this, to help everybody out, because it's our industry needs to survive, and we need to do everything we can to try and keep it alive. And I think, actually, as I put in the very beginning of the document, I think it says it best. In words of Walt Disney, around here, however, we don't look backwards very long. We keep moving forward, opening up new doors, doing new things, because we're curious, and curiosity keeps us leading us down new paths. And I have that written in, actually, my office. Like, it's one of those things that we just do it. And you gotta just say, you know what? I'm told no, but there's other ways. And that you can always think, like, again, going back to that one group, they did it in a zoo. The zoo needed people. They needed people. Let's come together. Like as you were, whoever was saying about the restaurant, like, that's great, because that's going to bring money to the restaurant as well. You got to think about your local man. You got to help out one another. You figure out who's doing Clue. Like, you could possibly think about doing it at a hotel entranceway, or something like outside of the box, that you ask permission to, like, block off the street and use the front of the building as your thing, or in a park. Like, there's, in the document I talk about, like, you can do a block party. I've done a show where we blocked off an entire street in Philadelphia, and the entire show took place on that block. And the audience sat on the sidewalks. And yeah, you're looking like this at one point, but everyone it's a continuous action, and we're showing the art. Get creative, let's be creative and help one another. And that's why we created this document.
Thank you both. Yasmin, I know you just joined. We actually are wrapping up. Do you want to chat? Is there anything, what are you planning to do for the school year? Like, what are you looking at right now?
I'm kind of joining because we're still trying to figure out how to do our musical. And we talked about an outside venue. We're inner city school, so the front of our school is actually a main road, but right across from it is a big park. So we're trying to work with the city now to see if they'll set up a huge stage on the outside of our school and hold rehearsals outside and try to do the performance outside, kind of like a Battery Park or Lincoln Center, where you just perform outside. We have been rehearsing like via Zoom in a sense, so we haven't come together just yet. I'm also in charge of our dance department, so we're trying to figure out how to bring kids in for rehearsal, because it's really hard to do it over video, for corrections and stuff like that, and trying to get timing in. So the kids have actually come up with ideas where we're like, okay, well, we'll take over a park and we'll be like 10 feet apart from each other. We'll just take up the space. We'll do what we can, see what it is to dance in the grass, how different it is if we go on cement, and then try to bring that into a space where we can have people sit in the park, like on blankets, to watch the performance and really spread everybody out, kind of like an arena, keeping us in the center. So we're kind of still working through it, and just getting the city to give us permission to kind of like spread out in that kind of way and block off areas where it would just be our performance.
No, that's awesome. Yeah, and I think I actually, when I was I guess when you came in, when I was talking about we blocked off a whole street, if you plan on doing that for one night, sometimes your township police will actually help you out and say, yeah, that's a great idea, let's do that. And you can block off, there's a whole protocol, which again, in the document, it's part of like, hey, these are people I should probably have involved if I'm thinking this. But then, yeah, either doing that. There's actually with your dance program, in the document, I have a link there's a dance troupe that's up in New York that ended up walking around the streets, and they just walked in a straight line, keeping 6 feet apart, and they danced individually, doing their own dance going down the road, and it was kind of like in a guerrilla theater style. I thought that was pretty cool. But actually a local high school near me, they're renting a 50 by 60 foot tent, and they're using it for their band program, dance program, theater program, and they're all going to use it together, and they're joining in together and paying. Yes, tents are sometimes expensive, but the companies nowadays, they will work with you. I mean, they're doing it with the restaurants. They're giving them almost like a third of the price of what it normally is. So they might help you out because they're making business, but also they're trying to keep you in business. And that's what they're doing. They're using, my buddy is actually the guy that builds the sets there. He is building a small stage, which then they're going to put Marley down, and that's strictly for the dancers plus the actors when they do their fall show. So that's the plan there. And yeah, and as said in the document, always look for somebody to help you out. If you don't really feel comfortable in this position, always look out for somebody. But no matter where you are, somewheres in this country, there's theater consultants, technical directors, things like that they will help you with these situations.
Yeah, Yasmin, I'm looking at your stuff in Elizabeth, New Jersey.
Oh.
Awesome. Yeah. So Rob and Carolyn are both like New Jersey folks, so that this document may be like even more helpful, since I mean, I know everywhere in every state is different, but yeah, so that's awesome. Do you have any questions that you want to ask Yasmin or Emily? Great. Well, this is lovely. Thank you, Carolyn and Rob, for joining. This has been wonderful. And if anybody has any questions in replay, feel free to reach out. We can put you in touch with Carolyn and Rob. But yeah, so this is great. We hope that you'll join us next month for a brainstorm. We're going to be brainstorming resources for diversifying the content in your classroom. That will meet on the 4th Thursday of October. We'll send out more information with all of that in the follow-up. And yeah, we hope to see you in future brainstorms. All right, bye.
Bye. Thanks, guys.